So whether trainee period, whether it is to be included while determining the length of service, right? Strictly speaking, not. You need not include trainee period because they are all getting only trained. They are not employed, so they are not assigned any target. That is the idea. When you say training, these people are only getting trained. They are only learning, right? Equivalent to some kind of apprentice, right? So that need not be considered for as a service, but if the persons are engaged as trainees, but as a matter of fact they are employees, right? So maybe in the guise of trainees, if they are engaged, then we may have to include, right? And one other point is whether they are truly trainees or just named as trainees. If we have some procedure like after the end of the training period, relieving that person, giving the relieving order, making the settlement for the trainee period, whatever it could be 3 months or 6 months or 1 year. Different practices will be there in different companies. So at the end of the training period, if the complete settlement is made, then once again fresh application is obtained from the individual and fresh interview is conducted, and again he is taken as probationer, so that we are through the procedure. We are trying to prove that there is no nexus between this training period and the subsequent period. If that can be done, that can to some extent definitely safeguard, right? It is only procedural safeguard, right? In spirit, if they are really trainees, then that is fine, right? If they are trainees under Apprentices Act, definitely you need not include. If they are trainees under as per the standing orders, then you need not include. But otherwise, there is slightly risk is there, right? But so long as you are confident that you have engaged only for providing training and not for doing any work, no, of course, there must be proper records for that, right? So nowadays, what has happened? No, these records are not properly maintained. So maybe if in case if there is any dispute, then it will be difficult for the employees to prove it. That is the thing. So procedurally, if you adopt this thing, so relieve that person at the end of the training period, settle the account completely, give a clear gap, at least 1 week, 10 days or 15 days. Then within those 15 days or 10 days, complete the other formalities, getting a fresh application, conducting another interview, then giving another fresh appointment order as probationer. Then maybe that could to some extent support, help the employer in case if there is any dispute raised by the individual on a later date. I'll move on. Q10. Q10, once again, it is regarding gratuity, when it can be forfeited. Again, this question will be raised by the HR fraternity again and again. Yes, it can be done if the services of the employee are terminated because of any act because of which he caused some damage or loss to the company. Then to that extent, gratuity can be forfeited, right? But what is important is the termination of the service should be because of that negligence or act or omission of act by that individual. So there must be a clear inquiry, clear disciplinary action taken against that person, and the cause of termination should be that. Only then we can do that. Otherwise, it is not possible. Similarly, if the services are terminated because of riotous behavior or disorderly behavior or some violence or behavior involving moral turpitude, right? Then gratuity can be forfeited either partially or fully. It is possible. That is the second point which you are seeing in our slide now. It is possible. There also you can forfeit, right? Either partially or fully. But in both these cases, the termination should be based on whatever is alleged, right? The act or omission of act or negligence causing damage or causing riotous or disorderly behavior. That should be very clear, right? Otherwise, it cannot be done. Now, Q11, whether contract workers are entitled for bonus. Again, $1 million question. Again and again, we will get this question. Strictly speaking, yes, no, the contract workers are not entitled for bonus or gratuity. That is a general position. But for the third point, you can come to the third point where the principle it is made in the Madras High Court as well as in Bombay High. I think we discussed this point earlier. The principal employer is liable for payment of gratuity if the contractor fails. But that is only with respect to Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra because of the judgments given by Madras High Court in 2003 and the Bombay High Court in 2017. Because of the operation of these judgments in these two states, it is possible, right? but otherwise it is not there. And there are contra judgments, particularly in Kerala. Kerala High Court very clearly said in Communico Binani Zinc case, both for bonus as well as for gratuity, the principal employer is not at all liable. Right? There are judgments. So this is the position generally, because contract workers are not falling under the definition of the term employees either under Bonus Act or under Gratuity Act. Right? And bonus or gratuity, it is also not considered as part of wages. But unfortunately, Madras High Court held that it is part of wages. That is the reason, in fact, in Madras Fertilizers case, I think Justice Sirpurkar, he said if the contractor fails, then that liability will go to the principal employer. Right? So slightly it is different in Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra. Otherwise, the contract workers are not entitled for both bonus and gratuity from the principal employer.